Think I'm on. Yeah. Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie. Hope you're all well. I hope you've all enjoyed your weekend and you're enjoying your Sunday. Thanks for being here. And I'm here. It's True Crime with a glass of wine tonight for Sunday night. Cheers. Now, just before I start, so this is what I've done here with this video tonight. I'm going to talk about 2 murders tonight. And as it is coming up to Burns night, that's why I'm doing the Scottish murders. And I'm going to talk about 2. What I've decided to do, because I made these videos earlier, and some people say to me they prefer a live. Some people say to me they prefer a video. So what I decided to do was make the 2 videos. I'm going to present the 2 videos tonight in the live, so you can all chat about them, the ones of you that like to chat, and the ones of you that like to just watch a video and don't really like to chat. I'm going to release the videos independently after this live, and so you can watch them as, you know, as videos, if you like, themselves without the chat, because some people don't like the chat. So I'm trying to please everybody. Anyway, first thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you to everyone who watches, likes, subscribes to my channel. Thank you to any of you who've bought me a Ko-fi or sent me a super, and special thanks as always to my members. And your support means everything to me. It really does. And the other thing I just want to look at to start tonight, something that I've not looked at for a while, is my books, because those of you who've been watching for a while will know, but you know, new subscribers might not know that actually in my other life I am a Spanish teacher. I'm going to show you, if you want to learn Spanish, check out my books. Just if it's the sort of thing you're interested in. They go from level 1 to level 5. They're available on any Amazon site. Vicky Riley, Vicky with an I, Break the Language Barrier, levels 1 to 5. And they have explanations in English. The answers are in the back. There's a YouTube channel that backs up all the exercises, etc. And I also do Zoom classes. And some of you have signed up for my Zoom classes, my Spanish Zoom classes. Thank you so much for that. And the other thing I just want to show people, in case, again, it's new subscribers who maybe don't know about it. I know a lot of my subscribers that I've had for a while have actually ordered this book. Thank you so much. Also, there's a playlist on my YouTube channel where I read it out loud as well. So if you prefer to sort of audio, you can listen to it for free on my channel. Or if you prefer to read, either paperback or Kindle, it is available. Oh, sorry, I haven't changed the tab over. It is available on Kindle or paperback. And these, all my books, my Spanish books, or my this book, Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, will just tell you a little bit more about me, how I came to end up living in Spain, how I became interested in true crime because of a stalking experience that I had. It just gives you more of an idea if you want to know more about me. And as I say, you can either order it or you can listen to it free on my YouTube channel. There's a playlist where the whole book is read out in parts. And it's available on any Amazon site all over the world. And I want to say thank you to anyone who's bought it already. And a special thanks to those of you who've given me a rating, given me a review. So I've got a 4.5 star review. Thank you so much. Okay, so just wanted to talk about that first. Now, the next thing I want to do is just say hello to everybody who's here. As always, thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll enjoy the videos that I'm going to show you tonight. Or I hope you enjoy is always a funny word, isn't it, when it comes to true crime? But I hope you'll find them interesting. And, you know, I always try to find lessons to learn out of each crime, you know, that I report on. And I think there are some things to be learned from these. There is some positive, especially for the second crime that I'm going to talk about. There's some positivity to come. That's why I've decided to do Linda Spence first, because that perhaps is not so much positivity or but anyway, you'll see what I mean as we come to it. So first of all, I'm going to say hello to everyone. Let me just turn that off if I can work out how to do it. Oh, hang on. Yeah, turn that off, and I'm going to say hello to everybody. Hi, Chumba. Hi, David. Hi, Maria. Hi, Ocean. Gosh, my voice is going. It's a good job I've got these videos already made. That's probably why my voice is going, because I've been making videos most of the day. Hi, Charlie. Oh, hi, Rio. I like the way you say I'm here, but unfortunately, off for a meal with son and my mum. So happy birthday to your son anyway. So yeah, oh, well, Thursday is a big thing, the Rabbie Burns night. I'm really looking forward to that. I want to thank everybody who sent me in anything Scottish. It's fantastic. I've got some brilliant things to show. I'm really looking forward to that, because, and that's, so although we're going to be talking about crime up to then, well, Thursday night will not be about crime or anything negative. It'll all be positivity. It's a party, a fiesta, a Burns night. We're going to have fun. We're going to listen to bagpipes. We're going to listen to poetry. You know, it's going to be good fun. So, where are we now? Oh, thank you, Rio, for leaving a review on my Spanish books. Hi, Exotic. Yes, life gets in the way of a lot of things, unfortunately, or fortunately. It's not so bad if you consider the alternative. Oh, Charlie can speak Spanish and also Catalan. Well done. Hi, Rustic. Hi, Gary or Ruth. There you go. So I've said hello, I think, to everyone who's actually on the chat at the moment. I want to say hello to the rest of you that are at home. Not everybody wants to join in the chat. I understand that. So thank you so much for watching from home, and I really appreciate it. And don't be shy. One day you might feel like saying hello. And honestly, we don't bite. Hi, Wendy. Okay, now, so this first unfortunate lady that I want to talk about is Linda Spence. Now, let's have a look at a photo of Linda. Now, after I'd finished making the video about Linda, I found a podcast that is really good. So we're first of all, we're going to listen to this podcast, and I'm going to comment on it. Because it's got things in it that I didn't know, you know, and in fact, we'll go to that first because there's a picture of her on there. Now, Linda Spence, to me, some of you will know the story of Linda Spence, and some of you won't. I think Linda Spence, unfortunately, she sort of went in deeper. How can we put it about Linda Spence? She sort of bit off more than she could chew in a way, and she got herself involved with people that were not good people, and not only that, then she tried to fleece them a little bit, and it was just such a massive mistake that she made. And then when she made that mistake, I think she just could not find her way out of it. So that's basically, let's listen to the podcast. If we listen to the podcast, you'll get an idea, and then I'll play the video that I made on it. It's a very, very... Now, I need to give you a warning, really, because it's a very gruesome story. Obviously, I never go into any extreme details, and the podcast does not go into any extreme details. But the whole story is very graphic, very nasty. So just to be warned of that you should be aware of it. Okay, so because Linda Spence, she was abducted off the streets of Glasgow. She was tortured for 14 days before she was brutally murdered. So just to be warning, if you're a delicate person, you should not really even listen to it. But as I say, it's nothing graphic that I ever go into in any of my videos, but just a little warning.
This is Glasgow Crime Stories. We dive into crime of the city's past in short episodes you can listen to anytime, anywhere. In this episode, we look back at the trial held after the abduction, torture and murder of Linda Spence, which remains one of the most disturbing ever held at the High Court in Glasgow. Financial advisor Linda Spence endured 14 days of hell, bound helplessly to a chair at the hands of her tormentors, Colin Coates and Philip.
Now, can I just say, Linda was only 29 years old, and for this to be said to be one of the most brutal cases that Glasgow's ever known, I have to say, Glasgow has known a lot of brutal cases, so that tells you something.
Wade. Coates took her to the attic of a flat in West Kilbride, Ayrshire, bound her to a chair with tape, put tape over her mouth to stop her screams, and placed glasses with taped-up lenses over her eyes. As Linda sat in terror, blindfolded and defenceless, they used a hot iron, a golf club, cigarettes and bolt cutters before finally killing her. Wade bought the equipment used in the torture, and Coates used Linda's mobile and email accounts to pretend to her family and friends she was still alive and well. They hired two small-time crooks, David Parker and Paul Smith, to guard her between the lengthy torture sessions. Coates' aim was to force Linda to tell what she had done with money she owed Coates in a bogus land deal. He believed he had been ripped off and wanted revenge, and his money back. It's not known if Linda ever told the men what they wanted to know. One thing is certain, she would not live to tell the tale. Linda was finally murdered around April the 28th, 2011, and Coates is believed to have cut off her head before disposing of her body. Her worried parents, Patricia, 56, and Jim, 68, reported her missing on May the 13th, and appeals were made to the public for information. Coates became a prime suspect and was placed under surveillance, but detectives found that witnesses were too scared to speak out. The breakthrough came on August the 16th, after Coates had left one witness so terrified for his life that he went to the police. On October the 28th, 6 months after Linda was murdered, officers smashed their way into the West Kilbride flat.
So I just want to say, somebody was saying that, yeah, it always seems to be over money, doesn't it? But the other thing is the fear that was exerted by Colin Coates. We'll be looking at some photos and some video of him later. He's a particularly horrible person. The fear that he instilled into everyone. So this is often the reason, isn't it, why cases are not solved quicker. Because people are too scared to speak out. So you can understand why, because if this man did what he did to Linda, there's no reason why he might not do it to somebody else. So you can see why people were terrified. But in the end, he terrified someone so much anyway that they went to the police, because they felt that if they didn't go to the police, he was going to kill them anyway. So he went too far with someone.
Police found a spot of Linda's blood on the bathroom floor and a fingerprint on the door handle. Mobile phone evidence also placed Coates and Wade and West Kilbride throughout Linda's ordeal. As a result, both men stood trial in February 2013 at the High Court in Glasgow, accused of her murder, despite there being no body. Crucially, Parker and Smith agreed to give evidence for the prosecution in return for lesser sentences. The jury heard how Linda, 27, was snatched off the street in Broom Hill in Glasgow's West End in April 2011 and taken by car to Ayrshire. They were told that Coates was a computer expert who had a glittering career, a glamorous wife, 3 children, and a fortune in the bank. His extraordinary IT skills took him first to the Civil Aviation Authority, where he helped develop air traffic control systems, then to the world of investment banking, where he designed trading floors. Coates was richly rewarded and made even more money from property development. He told his QC, Derek Ogg, at his trial, "In a bad year, I earned £200,000. However, his love of booze and cocaine and violent flaws in his personality took him into the world of organised crime." A catalogue of witnesses took the stand during the trial to implicate Coates and Wade in Linda's murder. Smith and Parker had been paid £10,000 to babysit Linda after her abduction. Paul Smith, 47, claimed he had been hoodwinked into providing a safe house where Coates and Wade could keep her. He claimed Linda was alive when he last saw her.
Yeah, the other thing that really winds me up about this case is he paid 2 men to sort of babysit her, if you like, or to be there when he wasn't there, torturing her, because he kept her there for 14 days. Him and the other guy kept her there for 14 days and tortured her. But there were 2 guys that he paid, I think it was £10,000 each, to sort of look after her, if you like, or make sure she didn't escape on the days they weren't there. And this makes me really angry, because they could have gone to the police at any time and they could have saved Linda's life. And they knew she was being tortured. They knew she was being tortured. They could hear it. They spoke to her. She was obviously really upset. How they can live with themselves, I really don't know.
Her, but was too scared of Coates to let her go free. Smith added, "I wish that Linda Spence would be found for her family's sake." David Parker confirmed that Linda was held at his home in West Kilbride for around 13 days. The 38-year-old told police that he believed Coates and Wade had murdered Linda, then disposed of her body. He broke down while giving evidence. Asked if he spoke to Linda, Parker said, "She just said she wished she hadn't got herself into this mess. I told her to tell these guys what they want to know and get it finished." Both Coates and Wade went to remarkable lengths to cover their tracks after Linda's murder. The loft carpet was removed, floorboards were replaced, and an industrial-scale clean-up operation was carried out, including burning the chair. However, they still left behind the tiny amounts of forensic evidence that linked her to the Chamber of Horrors, where she met her brutal end. Linda's business partner, financial advisor Tony Kelly, 56, had introduced Linda to Coates and was the first witness to recall a confession from the accused. He said Coates told him, "I killed her last Thursday." Coates also made a comment about Linda being seafood. Kelly said, "I took it to mean that her body was dumped in the water." He also claimed that when he tried to get hold of Linda after she went missing, Coates told him, "You might need to do that through a medium." The most heart-rending evidence came from Linda's parents. Patricia Spence, then 56, described her daughter as a loving, caring girl, but said she was very tense the last time she saw her on April the 13th, 2011. Her mum added, "I just keep thinking she's going to come back. I only had the one lassie. She was my life." On June the 2nd, Patricia received a call from one of Linda's phones. It had been found in a bin at a cafe in Kilbirnie, Ayrshire, and the person who discovered it speed-dialed Mum in a bid to trace its owner. Both parents told police everything they knew about Coates and their daughter's business dealings, but it was too late. Linda was already dead. Another witness, Pamela Pearson, claimed Wade confessed to her that he and Coates had disposed of a woman's body in the hills. Landlord James Dillon told the court that 3 pieces of flooring had been replaced in the attic room where Linda was tortured. Peter Hadley, who met Coates while he was on remand in Addywell Prison in West Lothian, claimed Coates had told them that he had cut off Linda's head and put her body in a furnace. Hadley said, "He told me he had killed her. She had tape over her mouth and he held her nose until she died." He also claimed that Coates had told him he had killed her because she owed him money. Company director John Glenn was a key figure in the case, and screens were erected in court for his evidence. He first met Linda in late 2009 through his property business and lost money he invested with her, but he continued to do business in the hope he could recoup his losses. Glenn said, "If you listened to Linda, you would believe that she was a millionaire a couple of times over, with property in Glasgow and property abroad." On one occasion, Linda had phoned him to cancel a meeting at McDonald's in Glasgow's Crow Road. He told jurors she made reference to Colin Coates and said, "He's going to kill me. I need to get his money back for him." She sounded very distressed at the time. Usually she was a bubbly person, but she did not sound herself, he added. It was the last time Glenn spoke to her, but on April the 26th, he met Coates at a shopping centre in Broomhill. Glenn claimed Coates then told him, "I need to show you something." He then pulled out a plastic supermarket bag.
So I just want to warn you before you listen to this. This is a warning.
Glenn said, "When I looked in, there was a thumb inside the bag. I was horrified by what I saw." Coates replied, "We've got her. We've always had her." Glenn then added, "I knew straight away he was talking about Linda Spence." The following day, the pair met again, and Glenn told Coates he would need a copy of a valuation from Linda. Coates replied, "If you want one, you'll need to organise a séance." Glenn said, "This led me to believe that he had murdered Linda." To this date, Linda's body is yet to be found. Coates is believed to have suffocated Linda in the bathroom before putting her bloody remains in the boot of her silver Vauxhall Astra. Like Linda's body, it still remains missing.
So they still have not found her, bless her. And this is that they have been, well, you'll see when you see my video, when this podcast finishes and I put on the video that I made about it. They have supposedly been cooperating and trying to, cooperate with the police and find Linda's body, but nothing's been found so far. So I just hope they find her one day.
To this day. At one point, Coates and Wade drove to Tinnabrooch, Argyll, to dump the body in water, but changed their mind after being told the weather was too bad. During the trial, an image emerged of a young woman who mixed with the wrong people and audaciously ripped them off. But her luck finally ran out when she met Coates. Linda broke the law in 2 ways. She committed fraud by taking money off people and then squandering it on a lavish lifestyle. But she also acted as a facilitator by providing people with forged documents to get them a mortgage. The court was told her services for people who did not have the necessary paperwork were well known. Linda enjoyed many luxuries, thinking nothing of shelling out £150 on bottles of Cristal champagne, but her business partner, Tony Kelly, described her murky dealings as absolute chaos. One involved 30 members of Glasgow's Chinese community who handed over £175,000 in deposits on flats at a housing development at Lochbun Gate, Maryhill, but no reservation fees were paid. Linda simply pocketed the lot.
Now, I just want to say about that, so she's, she wasn't innocent in that sense. I mean, she was a con woman. She did con people out of money. And unfortunately, when it came to Mr. Coates, she just conned the wrong person. But she was lucky with these Chinese guys because some of you will know if you have read my book. I was married to a guy from Hong Kong many, many, many years ago. And the sort of Chinatown gangland life, believe me, she was lucky that they didn't get hold of her, and they would have cut more than a thumb off. We heard, I know of many times that, and they did. It's funny, it's very similar things. They would not cooperate with the police. So in Chinatown in Manchester, there are gangs in the town centre. And my husband, he would not work in the town centre. He would not work in Manchester. He would only work in restaurants, in the suburbs, because he said if you work in Manchester, you get involved in it. You can't help but get involved in it. You're right, just by virtue of you working there, you're involved in it. So Linda, she was playing a dangerous game. Not saying she deserved what happened to her. Of course, she didn't deserve what happened to her, but she was walking a tightrope, and if, gosh, she's lucky the Chinese triad, didn't get her, if she ripped them off as well. But unfortunately, then she ran into Coates. She must have known. I believe she was quite scared of him, so she knew he was after her. But what could she do?
She often used aliases, and an expert report found she had used 20 different mobiles in the 18 months before she vanished. Linda had promised Coates a £3.2 million return on an £85,000 investment, paid in Danish bearer bonds to avoid VAT. However, he did not know the deal was a scam and the bonds were actually forgeries. Coates and Wade then hatched a plan to abduct Linda and systematically torture her for days in a bid to get their money back. During their trial, it also emerged that the murder victim had been recruited as an informant for the now defunct Scottish Crime and Drugs Enforcement Agency, SCDEA, weeks before her murder. She had agreed to spy on an Albanian underworld network with links to alleged drug dealing and people trafficking. However, it was claimed in court that her SDEA handler failed to tell police colleagues of her secret role. As a result, they lost vital ground hunting for Linda. Her parents had given her money to set up in business as a financial advisor, but Mum, Patricia, said she knew nothing about Linda's work, except that she was always busy. The jury took around 20 hours to reach their guilty verdicts on Coates and Wade, following a trial that lasted 46 days. Both men were given mandatory life sentences and warned by trial judge Lord Pentland that they could die behind bars. Coates was ordered to serve a minimum sentence of 33 years before he could be considered for parole, while sidekick Wade was given a tariff of 30 years. Trial judge Lord Pentland told Coates he was a highly ruthless and dangerous man who had been the driving force behind Linda's torture and murder. He added, "You were the more dominant and controlling personality. You were the prime mover and shaker behind the abduction, torture, and murder of Miss Spence. You are clearly a man of some intelligence who attained a measure of some success, but you are a manipulative, devious, cruel personality and resorted to violence when you perceived you had been thwarted." Lord Pentland said Wade had been driven by greed to commit a truly monstrous and barbaric crime. He told him, "You were motivated by greed and the thirst for revenge. The evidence shows you are a violent and dangerous man with no respect for human life. You will not necessarily be released after 30 years and may indeed never be released." Neither of the killers showed any emotion as they were handed their life sentences. Minutes after the verdict, Coates was served with an order under the Proceeds of Crime Act and said, "Oh, thanks very much," to the police officer who served it on him. Parker and Smith were each jailed for 11 years for assaulting Linda and holding her captive. In a statement outside the High Court in Glasgow, Linda's devastated father, Jim, then 68, and her mother, 56-year-old Patricia, said, "There is no verdict that will bring our daughter Linda back or spare her the terrible ordeal that took her life. We will never begin to imagine her suffering or comprehend the cruelty of any person who would do that to another human being. We cannot begin to understand or forgive what they did to our daughter Linda. No words can begin to describe the heartache and pain we are suffering. In July 2014, Coates and Wade lost appeals against their conviction and sentence. Both claimed they were victims of a miscarriage of justice and had been given longer sentences than the Lockerbie bomber. The three appeal judges concluded that there was overwhelming evidence they had killed Linda, and the prison sentences were justified. Lord Gill said, "There emerged, in my view, an overwhelming case that the appellants murdered the deceased. In my opinion, there was no miscarriage of justice. This was a barbaric crime that merited the severest penalty." It later emerged that the police investigation to bring Coates and Wade to justice had cost almost £875,000, but few disputed at the time that it was money well spent. In March this year, police began a renewed effort to find Linda's body at a remote 21-acre spot at Auchenbreck, around 12 miles from Dunoon in Argyllshire. The following month, they began an official dig, following a 4-week assessment by experts. At the time, Detective Superintendent Suzanne Chow of the Major Investigation Team said, "A detailed assessment of the location has been completed, and we have now commenced digging to further explore the site for potential evidence. This will be an extremely detailed operation involving specialist search teams from Police Scotland, forensic scientists, and soil experts from across the United Kingdom. The family of Linda Spence are being kept updated as efforts to establish if her remains are within this area continue. I would ask anyone with information to please come forward and speak to officers." To this day, Coates and Wade have refused to tell Linda's mother where they disposed of Linda's body. 6 years ago, she made an impassioned plea for him to break his silence. Patricia said, "If you have any heart at all, any conscience, just tell me where she is and give me her back. I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you. Give me Linda back before anything happens to me. Linda was my only child. It would mean everything."
Now, I don't know if they've already said yet, but did you hear them say that he applied for, he wanted to go to his mother's funeral, Colin Coates. He applied for on compassionate grounds that he should be released from prison to go to his mother's funeral. He shouldn't have been allowed to go until he told that woman, this poor mother, where her daughter is. Whatever Linda did, she didn't deserve to be tortured for 14 days and murdered. And her mother certainly didn't deserve to have to go through that, not knowing where her daughter is. How dare they give him compassionate leave to go to the funeral of his mother? Just makes me so angry. Why do prisoners, murderers have more rights than victims and their families?
Everything to me to be able to lay her to rest. Without her body, there can be no closure. Patricia then added, "The worst thing for me."
Yeah, he wanted to go to the burial of his mother. He's got the comfort, at least, of going to a funeral and seeing that she's laid to rest in a decent manner. And he did not give Linda that. He should never have been allowed. How dare they? How dare they let him go to his mother's funeral while he's denied that girl's mother, who is completely innocent, has never done anything to him, denied her the same peace and respect. Fuming I am.
The question I can't get out of my mind is, why didn't she tell me she was in trouble? I swear to God, I didn't have a clue. She was like my best pal. All we did was laugh. I miss her so much. Ironically, Coates was allowed out of Shotts Prison in November 2016 on compassionate leave for the funeral in Glasgow of his own mother, Catherine, who had died aged 80.
So angry.
One source, close to the original police investigation, told the Glasgow Times that Linda may not have been an angel, but she did not deserve to die the way she did. To her parents, the nightmare can never be over until they finally have her body to lay to rest.
Okay, so that's the podcast, and the reason I'm just showing that before I show my video is I found that after I'd already done my video, so I didn't have time to add it to my video, but I thought it was interesting. It was succinct, and it gives you like the succinct story. But I'm still, how they let him go, I don't know. Well, I blame the prison for that. Yeah, he probably didn't care about his mother, or maybe he did, but it doesn't matter. The thing is, he should not have been allowed to go when he has not given Linda, whatever Linda did, he has not given Linda's mom, and Linda's mom has done nothing wrong to anyone. He has not given her that respect, that thing. So he should never have been allowed to go, and that's the authorities' fault. But anyway, so what we're gonna look at now is the video then that I had made about Linda. Now again, warnings, because there are some quite sort of, I never go into big detail about anything gory or horrible, but there are some things that just are a little bit upsetting. There you go. You're going to get double Vicky Marie now for a while. Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, with a cup of tea today. And in this video, if you've not watched my videos before, my name's Vicky. I talk about true crime or all sorts of things. Anything that I think might be interesting for me or for my chatters, for the people, the chatterati. So yeah, because this is going out as a video in itself. So sorry if there's a few things at the beginning that I've probably already said. Watch my videos. And this weekend, if you're watching this video at the time that it's released, which is January 2024, we're coming up to Burns Night. Burns Night is a big celebration in Scotland to celebrate the poet Robert Burns. And we will be having a fun night on the 22nd. Wee Timorous Beastie of January, a live stream, which will all be about fun, not about crime at all. It'll just be like a party, a typical Burns night. But for this weekend leading up to it, what I decided, because a lot of people who watch my channel are Scottish, and sometimes they send me ideas for videos, etc. And I thought, coming up now to the Burns Night, it'd be a good idea to concentrate on these Scottish crimes, just because this week will all be about a Scottish theme. And this case is a case that I had read about. I had seen the documentary about it. It's a case with twists and turns, but also it's a difficult case to comment on, because Linda Spence, the poor girl who was the victim in this case, nobody deserves what happened to Linda Spence, because she was tortured and murdered over quite a significant length of time by Colin Coates and his accomplice. But the thing is, Linda had done, I think you can only call it a bit of a silly thing by really more or less stealing money off Colin Coates. And not that it by any way, shape or form, that means she deserved what happened to her. She didn't. But she underestimated who she was dealing with. She was dealing with a man who was quite into drugs, we will see, so why when he found out that Linda had taken money off him, I mean, she did defraud him of quite a substantial amount of money. There's no denying that. But why he went to the lengths that he went to torture Linda, who knows? Who knows? It just seems incredible that at his age as well, because he wasn't a young man, you know, had he done anything like this before? Why did he decide to go so far, or why did him and his accomplice decide to go so far in this case to do what they did to Linda? It just seems completely out of, you know, to go from not, you know, having any, he had no convictions for murder before, so why did he suddenly go to these extremes? That would be my question in this case. Is obviously he was angry with Linda, and I don't think you can blame him for being angry with her, because she had embezzled quite a lot of money or defrauded him for quite a lot of money, which we'll look into. But still, to go to these extremes, why? And poor Linda, she did go through hell. She really, literally did go through hell. So, okay, let's start looking about, talking about the story. I'm going to show you a news article. We'll see Colin Coates and Linda. Let me just share this with you. So here they are. So this is Colin Coates. He has finally admitted to this murder, because for a long time he denied guilt. Linda's body has never ever been found, and whether it will ever be found, he's supposed to be helping the police now to find, you know, her remains, but they haven't been found yet. Linda's mother is pleading for information because, you know, she wants to be able to recover her daughter's remains and bury her, you know, or before anything happens to her. So he's, of course, I'm not sure that the other guy has admitted his guilt, but Colin has reportedly admitted his guilt. So his confession comes exactly 12 years after financial advisor Linda Spence. So they called her a financial advisor. There is some doubt about that. She was a con woman. I mean, Linda was a con woman. She took money off Colin Coates for a sale of a land, for some sort of land deal, which it turns out didn't exist. So I'm sure she probably defrauded other people as well. But unfortunately for her, she did not know who she was dealing with when she crossed Colin Coates. Anyway, his accomplice is Philip Wade, and they were sentenced to 33 years and 31 years in prison, respectively, for their crimes. So they both pled not guilty, but they were found guilty by a jury after a lengthy trial. So it's always difficult to prosecute, isn't it, when there's no body? Anyway, so apparently he penned a letter from inside his prison, His Majesty's Prison, Glachan in Clackmannanshire, in which he confesses to murdering Linda. And the newspaper says it's seen the letter written to Linda's mother, Patricia. And he says, I feel compelled to clarify some background for Patricia Spence with her plight of finding her daughter's remains. Linda's mother's animus towards me is to be expected. I tortured and killed her daughter. So it is understood that Linda was bound to a chair for 14 days at the hands of her tormentors, and Coates took her to the attic of her flat, bound her to a chair with tape, put tape over her mouth to stop her screams, and placed glasses with taped up lenses over her eyes. And they alternately used an iron, a golf club, cigarettes and bolt cutters as Linda sat blindfolded and defenseless before they killed her. They also hired 2 other accomplices, David Parker and Paul Smith, to guard her between the lengthy torture sessions. And they pled guilty, and they were jailed for 11 years and 3 months, and then 11 years. I think that's a very light sentence. You know, when you think that they knew what was going on then, they could have saved Linda's life. They were lucky to get away with that sentence. Anyway, apparently Coates' aim was to force Linda to reveal what she had done with the money she owed Coates in a bogus land deal. He believed he'd been ripped off, which he had been, to be fair, but he wanted revenge and his money back. And they finally murdered Linda around April 28th, 2011. Now, gruesomely, Coates is believed to have cut off her head before disposing of her body. And his chilling letter that is sent to her mother also includes a claim he can assist in finally locating Linda's remains. Police carried out a dig at a remote location near Dunoon in Argyll last year in the belief her remains might be found in that area. And it was reported that police approached Coates for information on her whereabouts. That's what led him to the search area, but nothing was found. And according to the newspaper, Coates said in his letter to read that Linda's mum had been preparing funeral arrangements, and that I inadvertently identified the wrong field weighs heavy on my conscience. Now, this is where we have to think, is he playing with Linda's mother? Because if he is a psychopath, like Ian Brady, you know, and people like that, sometimes they love the fact that they wield that power, that they know where the body is. And that's the only power they have left while they're in prison. They've been removed from society, so they can't do the things they would really like to do, which is carry on, exerting power over people, especially in the case of someone like Ian Brady, who would have probably just kept on killing until he was caught anyway. Now, Coates, as far as we know, has not murdered anybody else, as far as we know. But is he just like getting some sort of vicarious pleasure out of, withholding this knowledge? Is Linda actually anywhere where she can be found? Anyway, he says he remembers, that's right, the killer added that a field he has seen on Google Maps has similar indicators to that which led him to believe that police were searching the correct area initially. His letter concluded, I hope that when Police Scotland examine this second field, that they are successful in returning Linda's remains to her mother. I did not set out to do this, but I did it alone, he said, and I presented Phil Wade with a dead body. Recently, I have apologized to him. Understandably, it was not accepted, as I'm sure any apology to Linda's mum would be met with a similar response. So now he's saying he did it off his own back. Philip Wade is innocent as far as murder is concerned. Who knows? So, Detective Superintendent, let's see what date this is. So, I never find the dates on these things. So this was in April 2023, this article. So Detective Superintendent Suzanne Chow of Police Scotland's Major Investigations team, who worked on the search near Dunoon, says the police are aware of the new information and it has been investigated. They say it has not led to the identification of a new area to search, and Linda's family have been made aware. It's very sad, isn't it? Miss Chow said information received was thoroughly investigated. However, it has not led to any new location to search or any new evidence. Linda's family have been informed of this development and our thoughts are with them during this difficult time. I would ask anyone with information about Linda's remains to please come forward. and speak to officers. All information will be assessed and investigated. So that was that. Let's have a little look at the actual history of this case, like what actually happened. It's so sad. I know all murders are sad, obviously they are, but Linda, you know, you just so if you want to shout at her, you know, like bless her, you know, to do that. She obviously was unaware of the type of person she was dealing with. You know, when you try and con people, this is always something, of course, that may happen. You know, you end up, unfortunately, conning the wrong person at the wrong time. And again, I'm not blaming Linda. Linda's nothing justifies what this man did to her. He should have just gone to the police, shouldn't he? Or he should have, you know, confronted her or whatever, but not done what he did. Awful for Linda and her family. So let's have a look at the history of it. So again, this is Linda. Who was Linda Spence and what happened to her? So this was in December 2023. So this is quite a recent article in The Sun. So Linda Spence was brutally kidnapped, tortured and murdered at the young age of 27. And the investigation into her death became one of the longest murder trials in Scotland's history. So now again, they're calling her a financial advisor. Another YouTube channel I was looking at today that we're going to have a little look at says that she was not a financial advisor. She, you know, but we don't like to talk ill of the dead, of course. Linda is not here to defend herself in, you know, whatever the reason was, whatever she did to this man, but nothing warrants what happened to her. So she was actually kidnapped off a street in May 2011 and was later reported missing by her parents. When they became concerned, they hadn't heard from her. And tragically for her family, her body has never been found. So there was a documentary in April 2023, the Channel 5 documentary, The Kidnap and Murder of Linda Spence. So what happened to her? She was kidnapped off the street by Colin Coates and Philip Wade. And the pair took Linda to the attic of a home in Ayrshire and proceeded to torture her over a 13-day period. She was subject to merciless torture where she was taped to a leather computer chair, and two other men, David Parker and Paul Smith, met them there. So I still think it's ridiculous that they only got 11 years each. I mean, you know, maybe they didn't, you know, participate in the murder, but they could have saved her life. I just think it's awful. Anyway, it's believed that Coates believed Linda had ripped him off in a land deal worth £85,000 and was supposedly, he was questioning her over what she had done with his money. So it's believed, again, nothing can be certain, but it was believed that she was killed on April the 28th, 2011, more than 2 weeks after she disappeared. Coates became a prime suspect, but was not caught till August 2011, when a witness came forward with information. And that October, the police entered that property in Ayrshire and found a spot of Linda's blood on the bathroom floor. And after an 11-week trial, Coates and Wade were found guilty of Linda's abduction, torture, and murder. David and Paul were given the 11-year sentences for assaulting Linda and holding her captive. And Parker, who owned the property where Linda was tortured, told police, "I knew she was injured, but I didn't know in what way. I didn't want to know." Oh my God, I tell you, if that was a member of my family that died and he knew and just didn't say anything, well, you'd be really angry, wouldn't you? You'd be pretty angry with him. She was in a frightened state. How could he just leave her there and not say anything? When they put the hacksaw blades through my door, I realised it was high duty serious. What happened to her murderer, Colin Coates? So, Coates and his accomplice Wade were jailed for Linda's kidnap, torture and murder. Both men denied their guilt but were found guilty by a jury after a lengthy trial. Coates received 33 years. Again, not much, is it, for torture and murder? I mean, how do they value lives? You know, torture, murder, 33 years. Why not a lot? Or, you know, I just don't get this. It annoys me every time. And Wade received a 30-year term. And again, it reiterates the body has not been found, despite Coates and Wade trying to cooperate with authorities in 2022. So they were taken out of prison on separate occasions to show the location after suggesting her body was buried in a field in Argyll. And in 2014, Patricia, Linda's mum, made a plea in the Daily Record to Coates and Wade to reveal the location of the body before she dies. She told the killers, if you have any heart at all, any conscience, just tell me where she is and give me her back. I'm asking with you, I'm pleading with you. Give me Linda back before anything happens to me. Now, I wonder if we can, let's see if we can see that. I don't know. Yeah, because she has cancer. She has cancer. Patricia Spence is undergoing chemotherapy for cancer. So she was begging them to reveal the location of Linda's body. She has terminal cancer. So there she is with a photo of her daughter, and she wants to bury her daughter before something happens to her. That was her only child as well. And she says that the doctors have given her 2 years, maybe less. Now, they describe them as gangland monsters. You know, here she is, bless, with, you can tell she's having a chemotherapy. She's got the scarf on with the photo of her daughter. I don't know if they were gangsters. Did Linda know what dangerous men she was dealing with? I don't know. Maybe she didn't realise just how dangerous they were. So, yeah, her high stakes business had underworld links and it spiralled out of control, and she played with fire in 2011 when she crossed Coates and Wade. She squandered £85,000 of his money on a dodgy land deal and pawned 2 of his Rolex watches and fleeced Wade's brother of £2,000. But the price she paid for her folly was beyond horrific. They cut off her thumb and severed the tip of her little finger. They smashed her knees with a golf club and her toes were crushed with garden loppers. She was burned with an iron and cigarettes, beaten brutally and repeatedly, and left in her own blood and filth for days on end. She was not allowed to go to the toilet. Anyway, it's believed, here he is, Mr. Coates. It's believed he finally smothered her, then cut off her head before hiding her remains. Now, first of all, I am going to show you some video of Mr. Coates. He was a cross-dresser, but I don't want any hate towards cross-dressers because, you know, you can't say that just because one person who's a cross-dresser murdered somebody, that all cross-dressers are bad. Just like you can't say that because one man murdered his wife, that all men are wife murderers, or one person. So I don't want any hate towards cross-dressing. The only reason I'm going to show this video is I want people to see, because when you see the picture of him, you know, and he just look, I want people to see what a horrible individual is, not because of being a cross-dresser, but yeah, just a little warning here. Sorry, I'm going to put myself back into the picture. This is me live. Just a little warning here about this video that's coming up, but I just wanted to show this man just how scary he is. And I just think, Linda, did she not realise how scary, you know, as I say, I'm not victim blaming, but I just feel if she'd ever seen him like this, like you're going to see him in this video, you would never cross him, because I think he's terrifying. I honestly, because he just is like on a different, you know, you would not cross him. You just would not. You would just, in fact, you wouldn't even speak to him. You would just avoid him like the plague. So did she get involved with, maybe he didn't come out, obviously didn't come over like that in the beginning. Maybe she just did not realise, did not know what sort of man he was. But just think, oh my God, you know, why did she, you know, I just don't know why she got involved with a man like this. You'll see when you see the video. Copious amounts of drugs, just very scary person. And when I watch the video of him, it just gives you an idea of what poor Linda must have seen. Obviously not the cross-dressing side of it, but the person that she probably saw in her last days. This was what was facing her. This was the person that was facing her, torturing her. You see the real him, not just the picture of him like on his mugshot where he's just like butter wouldn't melt. You see the real Colin and what sort of person he is. Anyway, last April, Patricia and Linda's dad, James, went to the murder house with two of her friends to mark the second anniversary of her death. His new owner had turned it back into a normal, decent home, but Patricia was still overcome with grief as soon as she stepped inside. This was a while ago, obviously. And she said it was a horrible feeling. We laid flowers and said a prayer, but we didn't wander around or go up into the loft. We were too upset. We had to leave. I don't know if I thought I'd get closure or I'd feel Linda, but I didn't. I just had to see it in my mind. And when I saw the surroundings, I realised she would have had no chance. She couldn't have jumped out the window or banged on the glass. Nobody would have heard her. So this is Philip Wade, the other perpetrator. Patricia has blocked out most of the details of what was done to Linda, but she's haunted by the fact that Coates cut off her thumb. She said, how could a person do that to a young lassie? How could you cut someone's thumb off? You know, yeah, you've got to be a pretty, you can understand him being angry, but this is beyond angry, isn't it? He's a proper twonk, a proper twonk. He must have done other things before this. Won't have been the first thing he ever did. Anyway, this is a picture of with Linda. Oh, when Linda was born. Now that's going to make me cry because, you know, I think with any of us that have had children, we've probably got a similar picture to that taken the day after, you know. You've got so much hope for your child. Dear me. You've got so much hope for your child, and you don't know that your child, that beautiful baby, is going to grow up to be murdered by these two twonks. So anyway, their henchmen, petty crooks and drug addicts, David Parker and Paul Smith, had their murder charges dropped because they admitted assault and gave evidence. They had been paid £10,000 each to babysit Linda. So he might have lost £85,000 to Linda, but looks like they had £10,000 each. They had £20,000 to just give them to babysit. That could have got them some of it back. Awful. Anyway, they're at pains to say there, Patricia's not been paid for this interview. Now, let me see when that was, because I need to find out. Is she still fighting her battle with cancer? Hope she hasn't lost a battle with cancer. When was this? It doesn't have a date, does it? Oh, this was in 2014. Let me just see. There, I've got this awful feeling. Is she still alive? So that was quite a long time ago when she made that appeal. No, Coates had boasted to a cellmate that he smothered her, cut off her head and burnt her remains in a furnace. So, but now he's saying that she's in a field somewhere. So that's the problem with these psychopaths. You just cannot believe what they say. You know, the mother will want to know what's happened to her, but is he ever, you know, is he just playing with, you know, is that part of his sick mind and just enjoying himself, like with the power that he's got? During that documentary, the prosecutor, the person who was prosecuted said, during your time as a prosecutor, some of these cases leave a scar on your soul. There is no doubt about that, because it takes you to the depths of what one human being is capable of doing to another human being. And it's true, isn't it? Because, yeah, of course he was annoyed that she'd stolen money off him. You know, we've all got annoyed about things, but we don't go and do things like that. You've got to be a special sort of twonk, haven't you? I really have got to be a special sort of twonk to do that. But anyway, so people say that life is cheap, and so that's why to them, so to these people, so that's why they cannot guarantee that they're even telling the truth, because they've got a different way of looking at things. So Colin Coates was they're 52, Colin Coates and Philip Wade, and she was only 27. You know, so awful. But they have been looking for her. I think they launched a huge search at one point for her, but nothing was found of any significance. So whether he's just, like, you know, as I say, winding everyone up, who knows? Now then, I want to show so what I want to show you is right, how can I put it? So I want to show you this video that was obtained where he was caught on camera sniffing poppers, making references to cocaine, boasting about abduction and extortion, and joking about gay sex. And as I say, I don't want you to think that I don't want anybody, I don't want any homophobic comments or any comments that cross-dressers do these kind of things. This is what he did. He is not a representative of all cross-dressers. This is him. He is the twonk. So apparently he dubbed himself the new gangster in town. Anyway, we're going to have a look at it. Now, I don't know if it's on this website or I have to go to the YouTuber's channel. Yeah. Now, he's been attacked in prison as well. Oh, shame, isn't it? So apparently he... Now, I need to warn you about this video because I found it chilling, literally chilling, because seeing him like this, and I don't mean because he's dressed up, but because of the way he's talking, and you can see he's totally off his face. You just think, is this what Linda saw in her final days? It's so just a warning, if you're easily upset, I would advise you not to watch this video.
So she was having a dinner party back at the her house, but it was only girls that were invited that night. I went up to drop off some inspiration, right? And as I went to drop off the inspiration, she handed me something back.
You went to drop off inspiration. Yeah.
So I went and left for a few hours with my mate Mark. Got absolutely tarted. Turned up at the door later on. She who must not be named was there, right? That's when I turned up. And I turned up just in a pair of stockings.
I turned up just in a pair of... Look, see, this is... I just find it chilling. It's the face like that, and you just think that will be the face that was looking at Linda. And she was tied, helpless, to the chair, and this is the person. Forget what he's dressed in, just looking at the eyes, because he's probably to do what he did to her. I expect he was drugged out of his head as well. Then, you know, that would have... just makes me cold, because it's like you can imagine that looking at you, those eyes. Oh my God, awful.
Oh, don't do it again, honey.
You're sorry.
You all right? How are you feeling?
My confidence has been kind of moved up a couple of rungs since I've been, you know, given the full show makeover.
Do you take a sniff of photos because you don't seem it?
No, that's just me, my normal.
Take a big sniff. A big, massive rock and roll one. For me, your wee sister.
For me, take a big sniff. Who is this stupid bitch who's doing the recording?
Right, big.
Oh,
A bigger than that.
Oh, for.
Right. Enjoy.
Oh.
whoa.
You need a bottle of tea. What? Yeah, pop. Once you're shank pop, you just can't. Oh, sorry.
Exactly. So I just wondered that video is available, but it was easier to record it off this. So I just want to mention I have to mention the YouTube channel because I've pinched a little bit of her video. So this is Zoe Spinnett, and she does crime. I've never seen her before. I've gone over there and subscribed to her. Oh, look. Yeah, a comment there, since YouTube already demonetized this video. Yeah, you know, as soon as you're doing true crime, you know you're going to get demonetized. So she's asking for likes, so let's like it. Yeah, that's the trouble. You know, you want to tell these stories because they are important. You know, the story of Linda is important. And, you know, but you can't tell them, you know, YouTube don't really like you telling them if they're too graphic. But anyway, what can you do? So I've just, you know, stopped worrying about it now. Just put the video out there, and if they demonetize it, they demonetize it, and that's all. You know, you've got to just make the videos you want to make, tell the story that you want to tell, and then see what happens afterwards. So there you go. So that is the very sad story of Linda. Now, what can we learn from that? Well, one thing we can learn is, and as I say, I'm not victim blaming, but we can learn that maybe you should be careful who you're defrauding. You know, of course, the mistake she made. It seems like she knew Colin. She knew things about him. She knew that he was like a gangland, you know, he's involved in drugs and this, that, and the other. It wasn't a good person. But unfortunately, I think she got in too deep, and she just didn't realise the danger she was putting herself in. So I think that's really very sad, isn't it? That she didn't realise that. Let's have one more. No, let's not. I think I don't want to look at him again. Okay, so that's it. So let's hope one day Her remains will be found, just to give her mother and father some peace. I know it can't change anything, won't bring Linda back. You know, it really won't. So we call it closure, but what sort of closure is it? It's just, I suppose, just knowing that you can give your loved one a decent burial and a peaceful burial and a service, etc. It must be awful just to think you don't know where they are, lying out there somewhere. Will he ever come clean and tell the he says he's telling the proper story now, that he's telling the truth now, but I don't know. It won't be the first time that these type of people come out and say things, and then it turns out they're not actually telling the truth, or they're not actually giving him relevant information. I just want to have a look at it when he was attacked in prison. I don't know how is he's been given an extra year behind bars, apparently, in 2021, because he was caught with a mobile phone. He's been breaking prison rules. So apparently prison staff were tipped off. So that's another year he's been given on top of his 33-year sentence. Gosh. They're saying Coates still has a lot of pals who he keeps in touch with, and the phone was a lifeline. He'd got into the habit of wiping the phone's memory after every call and message in case he got caught. He doesn't care about having 12 months added to his sentence. So apparently when he was moved to His Majesty's prison in Glachan in 2009, the reason he was moved to His Majesty's prison Glachan in 2019, he was caught with a pointed plastic weapon measuring 3 inches long stashed down his trousers. And this blade was found after he was fighting with other convicts. And he was sentenced to 4 months to run concurrent with his life service. Oh, goodness me. You know, why do they even sort of indulge these people? I don't know. He's like, even in prison, he hasn't learned anything. He's still violent. He's still, you know, everything. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe he'll find God, and maybe we'll come out and do something decent eventually. The thing is, if he's burnt her ashes in a fireplace or whatever, if he's incinerated her body parts and that, he's not going to be able to show them where her remains are. Or is he just going to show them, you know, where the ashes are buried? Or is that what he's trying to do? Anyway, the police haven't found anything so far in the searches that they've made. Okay, anyway, that is the very sad story of Linda Spence. So I'm going to finish that there, because that's a video that I'm going to release sort of independently, just as a video tomorrow. But really, more or less, you've had the whole sad story. So I think the moral that we can learn from that story, isn't it, is just don't mess with these bad people. Just stay away from them. Poor Linda, she just bit off more than she could chew. Yeah, she wasn't an angel. She did a lot of bad things in the sense of defrauding people. But you know what? I think she probably just got herself into a hole, dug it deeper and deeper. And then in the end, you know, she paid a massive, well, she paid the price of her life. And my sympathies go out to her parents, because they haven't done anything wrong, and they just deserve to have their daughter, to find out what happened to their daughter's remains so they can bring her home and bury her. You know, and that is the best that they can hope for. So let's hope they find her one day. Just let's hope. So we're going to look at the next case now. Again, I'm going to release this separately as a video. As I say, some people don't like to watch it on the live. They just want to watch the sort of the straightforward video. And this has got, well, it's still, I like to say it's got a happier ending, but only because justice has been finally been found for Caroline Glacken. This is another Scottish case, so I'm concentrating on Scottish cases this week leading up to the Burns night. Burns night, we'll forget about all these. I'm trying to tell stories that have got some sort of positivity in them. And this poor girl was only 14 years old when she disappeared. Well, she didn't disappear, actually. She was found. She was found the next morning dead in a river. She left home all excited, going off to meet her boyfriend, who was 4 years older than her. He was 18 years old, and then was found in the river the next morning. So that's what we're going to have a look at now. And it's a little bit more of a positive, because her mum has waited 27 years. Her mother has waited to get justice for the people that murdered her daughter to finally be convicted. And I think it just goes to show that cold justice is better than no justice at all. And I have so much respect for her mum, because she's conducted herself with dignity throughout this. She's had to live in the community where everybody knew who had done this to her daughter. Everybody knew, she knew, but nobody could say anything because of fear, but also because of not compromising any future trial that might happen. So, yeah. Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, with a cup of tea. And in today's video, you know, I'm looking at some Scottish murders, because coming up is Burns night. On Burns night, on the 22nd of January, we are going to have fun that night. But because I'm concentrating on Scotland this week for the crimes that I'm talking about, and this particular crime is a very, very important day, or it was a very important day, when Caroline Glacken's murderers were finally brought to justice. So on the 25th of August 1996, so 27 years ago, more or less, Caroline was 14 years old, a normal 14-year-old teenager. She liked boys. She was all excited because she was going to meet her then boyfriend, Robert O'Brien, who was actually 4 years older than her. He was 18 years old. And she was going off to meet him, not knowing that she would never come home again. So let's chat. So this case is especially important because it shows how justice, cold justice, although it's taken a long time for justice to come for Caroline and her family, it has at least arrived. So this was Caroline at 14 years old. We're going to have a look at a few other photos of her when she was little. This is Caroline when she was a little girl, bless. How heartbreaking for a mother to lose her daughter in the way that she did. It's heartbreaking to lose a child, however you lose a child, but to lose a child in the way that Caroline's mother had to lose her child, and to have to wait for so many years before she's got justice, even though she knew, everybody sort of knew who had committed this crime. And here are the three people that have been convicted of the crime. Of course, they're older now. They're not teenagers anymore. Well, they weren't they were teenagers then, sorry. So I've got O'Brien, who is now 45 years old. This is this guy, this twonk here. We've got Mr. Kelly, who's 44 years old, and Ms. Brand, who is also 44 years old. Now, these three horrible people, for some totally unknown reason, took Caroline out to the River Leven, which we're going to have a look at, the River Leven in Scotland, in Dunbartonshire, and decided to take her life and then leave her there, push her in the river basically, and leave her for dead. It's thought that she may have been unconscious when she entered the water, and they just left her there. They just left her there to drown. Just awful, awful. You know, revolting people. So, again, that's Karen. So this is Caroline's mum at her grave. At least she, as I say, we'll be hearing from Caroline's mum later the impact that this case has had on her, that this tragedy. Imagine losing your daughter and then knowing that the people that were responsible for it were still walking free for another 27 years. Gosh, she's a better woman than I am, I'll tell you. So yeah, poor Caroline. Hopefully she can rest a bit more in peace now. Here they are again. Kelly. The woman, now the woman, Ms. Brand, as they're calling her, she reputedly was also, so O'Brien, this ugly, horrible twonk here, you know, God knows what he looked like then, but if he looked anything like that, who knows what Caroline saw in him. But apparently Ms. Brand at the time was also in a relationship with O'Brien, and it's O'Brien who is thought to have actually struck the blows, if you like, with a baseball bat. But anyway, we'll look into that. Of course, it's not known exactly what happened to Caroline. Only these twonks know that inside. But I just imagine at 18, I just cannot imagine someone at 18 wanting to inflict that damage on a young girl, you know, just, and that they all stuck together and none of them said anything. And even if these two twonks weren't responsible for the actual blows, they didn't say anything. They let this man, you know, live his life now until he's 44 years old, but finally he's been given life in prison, so he will be going to prison. Well, they'll all be going to prison. So the two guys have already had their sentence of life imprisonment. I think it's a minimum of 33 years. This woman twonk, this twonkess, she's poorly. She's got a respiratory infection. So she will be sentenced later on in the year when she's better. Okay, so that's the perpetrators. That's Caroline. Let's have a look at what happened that fateful day all those years ago. All those years ago. So I'm going to share. Oh, I'm going to share a different.
Visible.
Let's see. So we share this window now, so I can show you. Okay, so this is the national world. Let's see if I can get through the adverts to actually So let me tell you the story of what happened to poor Caroline. So 2 people have been jailed for life for the murder which was committed 27 years ago. Robert O'Brien, so this is O'Brien here, and this is Kelly, Andrew Kelly, were found guilty of killing 14-year-old Caroline Glacken, who was O'Brien's girlfriend. God, oh, dear me. In August 1996, following a trial at the High Court in Glasgow last month. Now, I can tell you that was a very hot August, and the reason I know that is I was pregnant at the time. My son was born in September that year, and it was so hot. Well, it was where I was living in Reading anyway. You know, I remember it clearly. And in Manchester, it was hot as well because I went to a family wedding and it was just unbearable. I was unbearably hot because I was so heavily pregnant. So I do remember that it was very, very hot. So that explains perhaps a bit why they went out in the night, because apparently they went out in the night to commit this crime to the river. Anyway, Donna Marie Brand, 44, was also found guilty of the schoolgirl's murder, but she was unable to be sentenced as she was in hospital, and she will be sentenced in March. So the trio had arranged for some unknown reason to meet Caroline at a bridge beside the River Leven between Renton and Bonhill in West Dunbartonshire on August the 25th, and then repeatedly punched, kicked, and threw bricks or other similar items at her, causing blunt force trauma to her head and body. For why? Who knows? She was then pushed or fell into undergrowth, and her body was discovered in the river at place of Bonhill, Renton's later that same day, which was also her mother's 40th birthday. And on Monday, O'Brien and Kelly were jailed for life when they appeared for sentencing at the High Court in Glasgow. So O'Brien, he only got, oh my God, I thought they got 30 years. So O'Brien was ordered to serve a minimum of 22 years. Oh, for God's sake, what is going on? Anyway, and Kelly was ordered to serve 18 years minimum. I will never, ever understand these sentences. Judge Lord Braid described Caroline Glacken's murder as brutal, depraved, and above all wicked. He said O'Brien was the main perpetrator and used extreme violence on the 14-year-old. The judge said that while Kelly played a lesser role, he was also involved in inflicting murderous violence on the teenager. How is that a lesser role? You know, come on. How is it a lesser role? They're just allowing people to murder, because people will see these sort of sentences. They don't put people off. So if he serves 22 years, he'll only be 66 when he gets out. You know, and I know if you're young, that seems old, but when you're older, you know that that's actually still quite young, unless he gets ill in prison or whatever. Anyway, Caroline was a lover of life, but due to both of you, Caroline has been deprived of the opportunity of living that life, becoming an adult, having children and fulfilling her potential. You've taken a daughter from a loving mother. Mrs. McKeach has spoken of the pain that Caroline's death has caused, the void her death has left that will never be filled. She has been deprived of seeing the woman that Caroline would have become. No sentence that I pass could possibly make up for what she has lost. No, but a bigger sentence could make it feel better. So that was the sentencing. I'm going to read you another news item now. So this was an item from Sky News during the trial. So there she is, Caroline. So this was on the 28th of November. This must have been when the trial was starting, or they're on trial. So yeah, a teenage girl allegedly murdered. They had to say allegedly then because it was before they was found guilty. 27 years ago, sustained at least 10 significant blows to her head, which rendered her unconscious before she entered a river. Now, I want to show you this river. It's funny because, you know, when we see these rivers, you know, we've looked at a lot of rivers lately, haven't we? This is the River Leven. And if we look at the photos of it, rivers always look so beautiful and calm, don't they? And then so many sort of horrible things seem to happen there in rivers, not in just this particular river. So it's near Loch Lomond by the look of it, or I've been to Loch Lomond, it's very beautiful. Yeah, rivers are very beautiful, very tranquil, but just look at that. I mean, how beautiful is that? Gorgeous photos of the River Leven in Scotland. Okay, I'll go back to where I was. I just wanted to show you the river because it is so beautiful. Anyway, so the body of 14-year-old Caroline Glacken was discovered in the River Leven near the place of Bonhill in Renton, West Dunbartonshire on the 25th of August 1996. So, prosecutors claim the three arranged to meet Caroline at a bridge on the towpath beside the river between Renton and Bonhill, where they are alleged to have assaulted her, shouted and swore, and repeatedly kicked and punched her on the head or body. What possible reason could there be for this? I just, I mean, obviously they've pled not guilty, so they're not even owning up to it, but what motive, how they're going to come up with a reason for this? So it's claimed they threw bricks or similar instruments, causing blunt force injuries to her head and body before pushing or causing her to fall into the river and ultimately murdering the teen. So all three defendants pled not guilty and lodged special defences of alibi. Now I want to tell you about the alibi before we carry on. So the alibi was they were supposed to be babysitting two young boys, a baby and a 4.5-year-old boy, and they took these boys with them to do this. One of the boys, who of course is older now, so he'd be in his 30s now, who was 4.5 at the time, he actually testified as a witness from what he remembered. And I'm going to read that out to you later, his testimony. So he said it was dark when they went, so they went there at night time, and he said that he had seen a lassie get battered and fall into the river. And he said it was dark. He saw someone called Robbie, which is O'Brien's nickname, hit Caroline with a stick. Now it's thought to be a baseball bat that he hit her with. And this boy, I think his name was Alfie, but I'm not sure of that, but he said that when Caroline fell into the water, he closed his eyes. So let's remember that these twonks, not only that they did this horrible, horrible thing, they did it in front of children. So this was their alibi. They said they were babysitting at the time, but somebody had reported seeing them leave the house, which they denied. Somebody said they heard the pushchair for the baby that they were babysitting, going down the stairs. Well, you can hear that when you push a trolley down with a baby in it down the steps, you can hear it clicking. So, but they say, no, they didn't leave the property. But the boy, the 4.5-year-old boy, actually saw this murder. Just foul people, absolutely foul people. They're worse, the worst of the worst type of people, not only to do that horrible thing to Caroline, but to have a young boy there at the time as well. Anyway, the pathologist said the ultimate cause of the teenager's death was drowning. However, it was likely she was already unconscious before she fell in the river. I hope she was, because I hope she did. How awful. I hope she just didn't know anything when she went in the river. They just left her there to drown. She could have been saved. So they meant to murder her. They left her there to die. Her lungs showed the classical features of drowning, Dr. Turner said. In addition, she had significant injuries with a number of blunt force injuries to her head and skull, and these injuries were likely to have caused her to lose consciousness. So when she was asked, would the loss of consciousness be rapid, the pathologist replied, potentially. I mean, the thing is, very difficult, isn't it? You're just like, you're giving likelihoods, but you don't know. But anyway, she said potentially, given the number of significant blows landed. I hope so. Anyway, just because that she wouldn't realise she was drowning. She was still alive when she went into the water. Drowning was the ultimate cause of death. She had an extensive fracture of the skull. She had suffered at least 10, but potentially more blows to the head, resulting in obvious blunt force injuries to the face and scalp. Given the pattern which fell from her head to her left cheek, she said it suggested it's most likely from a weapon that is long and quite narrow with a rough component to it, or it could also be from punches, kicks and stamps. Now, another person, a friend of O'Brien's, claims that O'Brien, claims that she asked him, did you hit Caroline with that baseball bat? Because he came out of the bushes or something with a baseball bat. And she says, but this is only hearsay, she says that O'Brien said, yes, I did. And he admitted to her that he had hit Caroline on the head with a baseball bat. So O'Brien's solicitor asked if the teenager was alive but unconscious on falling in the water. You know why you'd be asking that? So how these people can defend these twonks, I just don't know. But the reason he said, because he'll be trying to show that necessarily it wasn't his client that killed her. She was still alive. Yeah, he banged her over the head a few times with a fucking baseball bat. Yeah. But no, he didn't kill her because she was still alive. It was the water, that bloody horrible water, that killed her, not him. Oh, God, such twonks. Anyway, and the doctor said, yes, it's extremely unlikely she was not unconscious before she entered the water. It may also be the reason she wasn't able to get out of the water. It was likely that she sustained a minimum of 10 blows, but potentially significantly more to her head. So O'Brien also faced separate charges alleging that on various dates between the 1st of June 96 and the 25th of August 1996, he assaulted her. So he was known for assaulting her at locations including Balloch County Country Park, Renton Vale of Leven and elsewhere in Dunbartonshire. If only she would have told someone, if only she would have told her mum. Anyway, it's alleged that he assaulted her by punching her face, placing his hands round her neck and compressing her throat. Oh, she won the lottery when she started going out with him. You know, I mean, not only that, he's actually really pig ugly as well, and not a nice person, for God's sake. Earlier, the court heard from witness Andrew Walker, 45, who told jurors he heard a kerfuffle when he was walking home on the streets near the river. He said he heard a scream and went towards the river to see what was happening, and then he heard a further scream. Mr. Walker told the court it was like a kerfuffle, maybe. Then there was a second scream that was a bit louder. It was maybe someone trying to shout. So that's very sad because, I mean, you know, the trouble is when people hear screams, oh, I mean, God, I'm always hearing screams in my village. There's kids that just seem to love screaming for some reason. And sometimes you think, oh, God, should I be worried? Should I be ringing the police? But of course, when you hear them often, you don't. Maybe he was scared. People think people are messing around, don't they? But it's awful to think that she could have been saved if somebody would have, you know, if he maybe would have investigated, or maybe not. Maybe he would have been attacked. I mean, these twonks, they were there to do some damage, weren't they? And they even had children with them. I mean, it's just it's sort of unbelievable, isn't it, really, that they were babysitting. Anyway, we're going to have a look now at what the BBC had to say about it. So this is where the little boy gave his evidence, saying he saw the girl in the water. So a 4-year-old boy told detectives he witnessed an alleged murder victim being attacked and then saw her in the water. Oh, his name's Archie, not Alfie. I knew it began with an A. So the High Court in Glasgow heard that Archie Wilson was interviewed by officers investigating the murder of Caroline Glacken. The 14-year-old's body was found in the River Leven in Renton on 25th of August 96. So the jury at the High Court in Glasgow was shown video evidence that Archie gave to 2 male police officers in September 1996. The boy told police he saw Caroline in the water and asked where he was. The child replied, down the Leven. And the court also heard it was dark and he saw someone called Robbie hit Caroline with a stick and a pole. And this little witness, Archie, said he closed his eyes when she was pushed into the water. So the court had already heard that Caroline was in a relationship with Mr. O'Brien, who was known as Robbie, and he was also seeing, I wonder if this is the crux of what happened that night, he was also seeing his co-accused, Miss Brand, at the time of the schoolgirl's death. So it was Archie's mother who told the police he had told her he saw a girl falling into the river. Betty Wilson recalled Archie also told her on the 25th of August that there had been a fight with a wee lassie. She said she had gone to her sister's house and that Mr. Kelly, now 44, and his girlfriend, Miss O'Neill, were babysitting her 2 children and stayed with them overnight. And Archie told her he was taken to the river by Mr. O'Brien, 45, co-accused Miss Brand, 44, and Miss O'Neill. Then Archie said there was a fight with a wee lassie and she ended up falling in the Leven and they battered the wee lassie. And Miss Wilson said that when she heard Caroline had been found in the river, she said, I realised my ween, that's child, for anybody who doesn't speak Scottish, was telling the truth. She also said her son had told her the girl was wearing a chippy jumper the same as she had. And indeed, Caroline had been wearing a dark blue chippy jumper when her body was found. So Archie told her the girl was hit on the back of the head with something. She was fighting with Donna. Donna would be the other. This O'Brien, for God's sake, you must put something in these girls' drinks or something, because why were they interested in him? Anyway, both the witness and her sister at first were a little bit sceptical about Archie's account, which she would be, because you think it'd be hard to, even though you thought that your child was normally a truthful child, it'd be hard, wouldn't it, you think, what? That can't possibly have happened. But Miss Wilson said he was talking about what he had seen while at her sister's house in front of 2 other people who called the police. Meanwhile, a witness told the trial she heard a woman shouting that wasn't meant to happen hours before Caroline's body was discovered. Linda Dorian lived above Miss Wilson's flat in the village of Renton, and between 11 and midnight on the 24th of August, she heard the voices of people leaving the flat, and she heard Miss O'Neill bumping a buggy down the steps. And she said she went to the window and told the jury, I thought it was a little bit late for her to be taking the baby, who's Jamie, the other boy, out in the buggy. And she saw Archie at the side of the buggy. And it was being pushed by Miss O'Neill and her boyfriend, Mr. Kelly, and there was a male and female in front of them. And she said that when they returned sometime after midnight, she heard Miss O'Neill shouting. She said she was not 100% sure of the words, but it was something like, that was out of order, that wasn't meant to happen. And then she said the commotion ended and it went quiet. And this historian added, I was quite frightened. I was in the house myself with my daughter. So poor Caroline, her body was discovered on the riverbank in Renton with extensive injuries to her scalp, face and neck, sustained from blunt force trauma. Okay, so they all claim that they did not leave that house. So what we're going to look at now is we're going to look at Caroline's mum talking about, you know, the convictions. I just don't know how she's got through. I honestly don't.
Caroline's mother, Margaret, came into the Scotland Tonight studio for her only TV interview of the day. She was joined by her husband.
I just want to say, oh, hang on, let me put myself on here. This is me as I am. I recorded this for those of you who've come in later. I recorded this video earlier, so hello, this is me actually live. But I just wanted to make a comment before I start playing this video about her mum. Her mum is talking on this video, and do you know what? Sometimes you get up in the morning, you have little quibbles and little things going on, and you whinge about little things, and then I watch something like this interview now, and I just think, oh, for God's sake, what are you whinging about? Because this woman, honest to God, her dignity, it's just incredible. But anyway, let me start it anyway.
Husband Alan to reflect on the long and painful wait for justice. Margaret, the killers were sentenced today, and do you get a sense that you and Caroline have had justice?
There is a sense of justice. I think a lot of people think, right, well, now it's closure, but I don't see it as closure.
Yeah, this word closure is used so much, isn't it? And there's partial closure. But closure is, you think of closure as when something finishes. It will never finish for Caroline's mum. Of course it won't. It will never, ever finish for Margaret. But it would just feel a little bit better knowing that finally justice has caught up with those twonks.
I don't think closure is the right word for today. Justice is the right word today. Closure is, I still don't have a daughter, so how can you close off on that? So I think, yeah, justice has been done today.
And Alan, you've been with Margaret the whole way. What was your feeling today?
I was happy to see them going down today for the length of time that they got. It's been a long time, as you say.
And as Alan says, that's been 26 years, 27 years, I beg your pardon. So there's been that search for justice that you've had for 27 years. And you were in the court every day. Give us a sense of what that length of time was, what it was like waiting that long and then being in the court and seeing it.
I can't imagine that. Can you? 27 years knowing, because she lives sort of not far away, I suppose, and knowing that these twonks were walking free, living their lives, getting married, having children, all the things her daughter should have been doing. And she's had to live with that. She must be a very calm person. I think that would be very difficult to live with without actually going and, and it wouldn't be good to go. I'm not saying it would be good to go and sort of start causing trouble or whatever, but how would you be able to stop yourself? But anyway, she does explain here in a very calm and rational way, bless her, why obviously she didn't, because she didn't want to compromise any trial that might happen eventually. And she did the right thing, of course she did. But I tell you, my admiration for her that she could do that.
Finally come to pass.
Like years, I think hope is what I had. Hope that they would catch whoever did it. Although I had a feeling, I think as most people did, as to who they were, but proving it was a different thing. But that was hard. That was knowing who probably done it. Having to see them sometimes, in the passing and knowing what they'd done. It's hard. The only thing I hope I had was that they would catch them. If I didn't have hope, then I didn't have anything. So it's hard to get out of your bed and go to work and do the dishes, you know, just normal things with that constantly there.
And just touching on that.
Yeah, just going through the motions in your normal life, all the minutiae of normal life, like, yeah, washing the dishes, putting the washer on, I don't know, cooking your meals, etc. And all the time, it's bad enough when you've had a normal bereavement, if you like, you know, at the end of the day, through our lives, we lose people, you know, but losing someone in this way and knowing that the perpetrators were still walking around free must have been absolute torture. Bless her.
Again, people that you think were responsible for killing your daughter, you're seeing them in the community, and you know that people in the community know that they're the killers.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's quite a hard pill to swallow, and you don't want to see in because you don't want to jeopardise any kind of investigation. So it's hard as a mother, never mind anything else, but particularly as a mother, not to go to them and, you know, and say anything or.
Yeah, you'd be sort of wanting to get your own justice, wouldn't you, on them, which isn't right. I know it's not right. I'm just saying how you would feel as a mother that someone had done that to your child, or a father, or a brother, or a sister, anyone, you know, or a friend, anyone that loves someone. It'd be very, very difficult not to take things into your own hands, but she did the right thing not to.
It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of strength to go over the years and just to keep going.
Why did you stay there?
Because I had to see this through to the end.
Oh.
Caroline's not here, but I'm here, so I have to be here for her to see it through. Come with me.
And Alan, what did you have to do to support Margaret in this? What was it like for you?
It was very difficult. Very difficult.
Yes, I think Alan is not Caroline's father, from what I can gather. You know, maybe a stepfather, but he has supported his wife through it all. So it must have been difficult for him. God, what, you know, this is what I mean. You know, we get up in the morning, we moan about little things, but what the crosses that some people have to bear are really, you know, they just fill me with admiration. These people, you know, that can sort of face these things and come through them, because I don't know what I would have done, to be honest, but maybe I would have done the same. You know, maybe I would, but until you're in that position, you just don't know, do you?
Just got to try my best to support it as we go along. As times went on, it's got harder to support her. There's lots of times when we thought, is it ever going to get solved? But since the cold case team came into the operation, that seems to be the thing that changed it.
Yeah, so all these years, and what happened, I think it was in 2021 or 2020, it was a cold case team that decided to reopen the case. And thank God, you know, so, and things change, you know, because when it first happened, people that maybe were defending these twonks, you know, maybe scared of retribution themselves, maybe just very young and silly, because you know, your outlook changes as you get older, doesn't it? You know, what you might think, you know, when you're sort of 18, 19, then when you get older and you've got children yourself, maybe that's when you think, you know, maybe I should speak to the police, or, you know, so things change. So these cases, it's always worth reopening them. Sometimes it's the police that reopen them if they get, you know, a chance to, or sometimes it's pressure from the family. But I think this is just proof that it's never give up. If you think, you know, obviously, if you think something's happened and you have got an idea of who's done it, because of course the other things that have changed are DNA advances. So there's a lot of cases getting solved, a lot of cold cases getting solved by DNA now. I don't think this has been one of them. I don't think so, but I'm not sure. I think this has been solved by witnesses now talking that weren't talking before. I think that's how this case has been solved.
You were in court for every day, Margaret. What was it like hearing what you were hearing?
To see the injuries to her to start, that was new. I knew that she had been hit in the head and such like. I mean, but to hear it and then to see the actual extent to the injuries was really quite harrowing. It was like, and to look at that and to see the injuries, and then to look in front of me and there's 3 people that were responsible, it was hard for me to keep in my chair.
And the defence lawyers?
Defence lawyers were...
Imagine, yeah, they're sat right there, the people. So you're looking at all these injuries that have been perpetrated on your 14-year-old daughter, and those people who did it are right there in front of you. It'd be very difficult, wouldn't it, to keep your hands to yourself?
Robbie O'Brien's lawyer in particular was quite... obviously he's doing his job. He's got to defend his and I'm quite understanding of that. But from a mother's point of view, for me to sit there and listen to him, you know, give her a character assassination and not be able to defend her, that was hard.
Tell us about Caroline. What was she like?
Oh, character assassination of Caroline, the dead girl who can't speak up for herself. Honestly, I'm sorry. I know he's doing his job, the guy. I know that these twonks have to be defended. I understand, like she says, but I couldn't do that. How does he go home at night and sleep knowing that he's just character assassinated a dead 14-year-old girl that can't stand up for herself? And even at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter if she was the biggest bitch in history. She didn't deserve being whacked over the head and left to drown in a river. So why do it? It's like so painful. That must have been so painful for a mum. And nobody's there to speak for her.
Oh, she was 14. She wasn't an angel. She, like any teenagers, they don't come in when they're supposed to come in. They go to places they're not supposed to go. They're with people that you'd rather they weren't with. But that is part of growing up. That is part of learning. But she was a kid.
Yeah, typical. That's it. It's horrible. I mean, I did it, I know, and then I had to, you know, go through it with my son. And I tell you what, any of you out there who've got children and you think it's difficult, but they've not arrived at being a teenager, and you think your child would never do that, or your child would never say that, or never mix with those kind of people, you're in for a big shock, because you don't know. You have no idea what might happen to your child when you become a teenager. It really is like them being lifted up, you know, and replaced with a completely different person. I just can't explain what it's like. Anyone who has been through it with their children will understand what it's like. And also, you know, it's made me feel guilty about how I was. And I wasn't that bad of a teenager, really, or I didn't think I was. But sometimes I look back now and I think about some of the things I did. Things that she's talking about, you know, I'd go out and I wouldn't come home, you know, because we didn't have mobile phones in those days. So just wouldn't come home. And then I'd arrive home in the morning and my mum and dad would be at the gate, like, terrified, wondering whether they should ring the police. And I'd just think, oh, what are you going on about? Just things like that. Or like she says, mixing with people you're not supposed to be mixing with, you know, always trying to, when you're underage, trying to get in the pub, trying to get in the club, things, you know, taking lifts off people. You know, I've done some stupid things when I was a teenager. So, and I think really there's not many teenagers don't do anything wrong. So, you know, it's not easy. So, yeah, Caroline will not have been an angel. Like she said, of course she won't have been an angel. Who is? But to give her a character assassination, as if anything that they could say would mean that she deserved being battered over the head and left to drown in a river, is disgusting.
Person, very loyal person. And if she thought that you were her friend, then you had Caroline's loyalty to the end, you know. Very family orientated. I mean, when she was out and about with her friends, she would often stop in at my mum's. ask how she is, make her a cup of tea and then go out with her friends. So that's the kind of person that she was. Know what they were portraying her to be in.
And Alan,
in
you
the
were
court.
only in Caroline's life for a year. What sort of girl do you remember?
A very fun, happy, go-lucky girl. Yeah, I liked her pretty much from the very start. She's full of life, you know. Basically, that was it.
And she was a very, obviously a much loved daughter, but a much sought after daughter because she had a tough start to life.
She did, yeah. She was 2 pounds, some ounces, and then obviously she lost a bit of weight, as most babies do.
Oh, she was only 2 pounds and a few ounces when she was born, bless.
So she was £1.4
Oh.
So it was quite
A pound.
to get her past that. I mean, she was quite a healthy kid. Looking at her, you wouldn't think that she had such a rocky start like that. But she was just a lover of life. She always had somewhere to go and somebody to see, you know, that kind of quite noisy, and that's what I miss. Because for all she was very slight built, you knew she was in the house.
But she was your only child.
She was my only child.
And you'd had other
I
disappointments.
had other disappointments.
So it was her only child as well.
I had actually a wee boy buried in Catterick that was stillborn, and then I had lost another, you know, others at various stages in pregnancy, all in like 5. So Caroline was the 6th sort of attempt.
Oh my God, this poor woman, and poor woman. So she's lost all those children. Then finally she has Caroline, and those twonks do what they did to her.
And that was, that would have been my last attempt. I know, like when I'd lost them, I'd say, right, that's it, I'm never trying again. But once you go over that, you think, right, okay. But this time I knew that it was the last time, and I got her, you know.
And had Caroline grown up, she would have been 42 last week. Last week. You feel you missed out on everything.
I mean, they've took Caroline as a body, but they have took away such a great deal from me. Not just Caroline's body. They've took away. I'll never be a grandmother. I'll not see her walking down the aisle. You know, all these things that I go to other folks' children's weddings and christenings. And so there's always that reminder that these are things that I'm never going to have. And that's what they've took.
You know, they need to start taking these sort of things into account because, yes, she'll never have grandchildren. She'll never see her daughter get married. And probably the grandchildren is a big thing. So not only she's lost Caroline because she's got no other children, so she will never have grandchildren. And it took her so long to actually get Caroline. Bless her.
Do you feel this was the result of a reinvestigation? Do you feel the original inquiry was flawed? Should have done more?
I don't think it was necessarily flawed. I just think they could only deal with what they had at the time. As far as forensics and things, I mean, she was in the water. So that was and then there was people that were coming forward now with a new investigation that weren't at the time, and that was due.
Yeah, I think this is key. It just shows you, you know, people change over time. There'll be people who wouldn't have wanted to say anything at the time for various reasons. As I say, maybe because they were just too young and they didn't think it was really that important. People that were scared maybe of the other people. Then as time goes on, things change. And, you know, if someone who's 18, sort of 27 years later, when they've got their own children and their own grandchildren, and start to think that, well, you know, they'd want someone to speak up for them, things change. So the police have done well to reopen this inquiry.
Due to their chaotic lifestyle, their drug habits, and mainly fear factor. There was fear in the renting at the time, and everybody was told to keep their mouth shut, you know. So if you're 16, 17, 18, you're scared.
Yeah.
How do you think of Caroline now? You spoke previously about you dreamt about her a lot.
Oh,
Is that still the same?
I still just, to me, she's still 14
oh.
because I can't see past her at 14. I mean, she
No.
is 14. She thought she was 34, but she was 14.
I bet she did. I
Such
remember
a
that.
quirky person, you know, just
And forever 14 as far
and
as you're
forever 14, yeah.
Well, Margaret and Alan, thank you both for sharing your stories with us in Scotland tonight. Really appreciate you
Thanks, Sean.
coming to
Thank
join
you.
us. Thank you.
Okay, so that is the sad story of Caroline. Very sad, but I think the moral, you know, I always like to look for something positive, is that justice, although eventually it came cold for Caroline and her mum, it did come. It did come. So let's have just one last look at these twonks. So these are the three that will be serving a life sentence. Well, you know, it doesn't look like life's been very kind to them. They don't look brilliant, do they? So he looks like he's on his way out already. I mean, they're only in their 40s. What they're going to look like when they're in the 60s? In another 20 years, my God. Yeah, horrible, horrible people. Doesn't look like life's been, you know, God, what a tosser. How you could live with that, don't know. And there you go. So there's a mum at a grave. Now, I haven't finished yet because just while we were watching that, it reminded me of, you know, what we were talking about when I was saying, well, that is the end of that case for tonight. But as I said, I'm releasing both those cases, you know, just the individual videos I'll be releasing for people who just like to watch a video rather than watching the live. But I just wanted to show, because what we were talking about before, it reminded me that of a case that I know of a woman, you know, when we were saying, where she was saying, poor Margaret was saying she had to sit in the courtroom and hear about all those injuries those horrible people did to her lovely 14-year-old daughter. And she had to sit there through that and, you know, had the temptation to just kill them, you know, to turn up one day with something and, you know, do some damage to them. Oh my God, it was so dim. I think they literally would have had to tie me down if that was my son, my daughter, even if it was like my sister or whatever, you know. So it's like, anyway, it reminded me of this case. I don't know if you know about this case of, let me just get it up. I'm going to show you the video. This woman actually killed the murderer of her daughter. Her daughter was murdered, and she actually went into the court with a gun. Marianne Batchmeyer, her name is. Let me find it on Wikipedia so I can read you the details of it before I show you the video. It's actually on video. Yeah. She actually killed Klaus Grabowski, who was a man who was being tried for the rape and murder of her daughter. And she went into the courtroom. Let me show you a picture of her before I show you the video. No, I don't blame her, honestly. Be interesting to see. I don't know what sort of she's died now. She died in 1996. Anyway, let's have a look at the so this is her, Marianne Batchmeyer, and she's a West German woman who shot and killed Klaus Grabowski, who was a man who was being tried for the rape and murder of her daughter Anna in an act of vigilantism in the District Court of Lübeck in 1981. Gosh, she was only 46 when she died. She had pancreatic cancer. And I'm going to cry now. I'm going to cry. Hang on. So her daughter was 14 as well. Her daughter, Anna Bachmeier. So she was only 14. Oh no, she was only 7. Her daughter was only 7. She was born on the 14th of November and she was raped and murdered at the age of 7. So this woman, Mariana, mother, went into the court and shot the guy. Don't blame her. Literally don't blame her. You know, honest to God, good for her. How tragic that she died also at the age of 46 with pancreatic cancer. Well, do you know what? If you believe in that would have eaten her up inside. I believe in things like that. Anyway, she was convicted of manslaughter and unlawful possession of a firearm, and she was only sentenced to 6 years, and she was released on probation after serving 3. She saved the state a fortune, didn't she? You know, because they didn't have to look after that twonk. Oh, anyway, so she did move abroad before returning to Germany after being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Probably she returned to Germany so she could be buried next to her daughter. Oh God, it's so sad, isn't it? Anyway, let's have a look at there's an actual YouTube video of the incident. And this is it. Let me just put it back to the beginning. So she shot him 7 times in front of the judge.
Keep running.
Not good for him. You know, I don't have any. You know, I just think that's a good thing. To be honest, she did. I'm sorry, but I did. And no wonder she did it. Now, also, that's it. You can't hurt anybody else. I've got my hands up on my jumpers. No, it's just one of these funny jumpers. Anyway, so yeah, she saves the state a fortune because you know, he can't hurt anyone else, first of all. What sort of sentence would you have got? Because also in the 80s, people got light sentences, didn't they? So she saved the state a fortune for having to pay for him or whatever. Anyway, I just don't blame her. I'm sorry, I don't. I understand completely. Whether you believe in the, you know, I don't know if I believe in the death sentence, for example, but it's different when you're thinking about it coldly, about somebody else's child who was murdered. That's different. But when it's your child that's been murdered, a 7-year-old girl raped and murdered, you know, I would want to do it as well. If I had the opportunity to do it, I would do it. And we had a case here in Spain, actually, in a village very close to mine. He hadn't murdered this woman's daughter, but he had raped her. And he got a really short sentence, like a ridiculous. Spain's a funny place for sentences and stuff. And he was released from prison. And he was in the bar. He went back to live in the same village. Imagine, because, you know, it's not the place where they live. It's not a city, you know, where you might never bump into them. It's a little village where you go to your local bar and you're going to bump into them. You know, you're going to see them in the supermarket. You're going to see them walking down the street. Tiny little village with a population of about 2,000 people. And he went back there. He went back to that village, and he was in a bar having a coffee. And the mother of the girl that he'd raped, she walked in, threw petrol over him, and set him on fire, and killed him. And that literally happened just up the road from him, not that long ago. Well, I say not that long ago, it was probably 10, 15 years ago. You know, time sort of falls into one. And I don't know what happened to her in the end, whether she got a sentence or not. There was obviously a lot of sympathy for her. But yeah, you know, good for these people to do it. I know, Charlie, but you know, I'm not being funny, but do you have children? Do you have children? I think it depends if you have children and how that would make you feel. If somebody did that to your child, I think maybe you do have children. I don't know. I'm just assuming. I think probably maybe you don't. I remember arguing with my nephew years ago when he was young about it, but he thinks differently now because he's older and he's got children of his own. Yeah, Charlie, that's the thing. It's difficult to understand. It's difficult to understand. But I appreciate your opinion. I don't agree with the death penalty itself, but and vigilante justice, you know, just generally I don't agree with. But I think when a parent, you know, I think you'd have to understand how it feels to, you know, to be in their shoes to understand how it feels. But anyway, it's not the right thing to do. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. Of course, it's not the right thing to do. What I'm saying is I understand why she did it. No, it's right, DMV. It is. It's primal. You can't even explain. I mean, not even for things like that. You can feel like that if just if someone's bullying your child or says the wrong thing. You know, you can feel like that over small things, not only a big thing like that. So, ooh, it is Riley. Riley's from Taylor. Come here. Come here, Riley. Okay. So that is definitely it now. So thank you for watching. As I say, I'm going to release those 2 videos separately tomorrow or later on tonight. And I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. I'm not sure yet, but hopefully see you soon. And remember to live and love wisely and carefully. Don't get involved with any underworld gangsters from Glasgow, that's for sure. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon. And until I see you again, may your God go with you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.